Hey y'all, welcome back to Outer World Media. I am Austin, and as always, welcome back to another TBR video. This time it is for the month of April. Not gonna lie, I kind of slacked off in March. I had this huge list of books. I didn't hardly read any of them. So April, I'm gonna try to be a little bit better as far as trying to stick with them. But let's get deep diving into them. I'm gonna start off with one that I've been kind of chugging along at, and that is Dead House Gates, the second book in the Malazan series. Almost said season there, I don't know why. About halfway through, 50% through the book. I will definitely say there are some parts that have come up in this that I was not expecting, so I'm very much looking forward to, kind of diving in and getting a little bit more into the story as it goes along. I can definitely tell things are picking up. We've had some characters that, are kind of off by themselves, groups of characters that are kind of starting to converge and meet each other. So I'm definitely enjoying that. So I'm looking forward to finishing that in the month of April. Well, the next book was on my last month's TBR possibly, and I didn't get to it, but we are coming up, like I said, into April, and the first weekend of April is WrestleMania. It is WrestleMania season. Yes, I am a huge WWE fan. Grew up watching it in WCW, a little bit of TNA, barely some ECW, so I am very much looking forward to diving into this book. I figure what better time than the week leading up to WrestleMania, the road to WrestleMania, and that is Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley. I know some people have commented when I talked about possibly reading this before about, kind of how Mick tore up his body and everything to further his career, and he definitely did. He did. They did a documentary, WWE did, about him and Chris Jericho and a few others, and his and Chris Jericho's were my favorites. But I want to read this just because, it's a big book. Even by Malazan standards, it's a little bit of a bigger book. But I remember I got about 100 pages into this a couple years ago, and I put it down for whatever reason, but I remember it just flew by. The book starts off talking about him losing his ear, or most of his ear, in Germany, against Vader, I believe. But it's a 700-something page tome of a book, but I definitely could see with it, like I said, being WrestleMania season, I am hyped, I am ready to go. I cannot wait to deep dive into this, because growing up, Mick Foley, was one of my favorite wrestlers, still is to this day. He definitely paid the ultimate price, I think, as far as, just kind of destroying his body for us, our fan entertainment and whatnot. And I can remember, just going back when I was a kid and watching the Hell in a Cell match with him and The Undertaker. And I think it was WrestleMania 32 when it was in Dallas, and you had Shane McMahon jump off of the Hell in a Cell to land on The Undertaker and all that. I still think that Mankind's moment will live in infamy and will be the greatest Hell in a Cell moment of all time. Aside from the Rikishi getting chokeslammed off the Hell in a Cell, I love that match. I don't know why. But again, I'm just kind of going off on a tangent now. Like I said, I am very much looking forward to getting into this. Like I said, this is about, him and his career and whatnot, and kind of starting off and all that. And so I'm very much looking, like I said, forward into getting into this. There's some pictures you could see of him and whatnot. Probably not going to be able to, they're probably going to block my video now for showing that on YouTube. But you know what? Oh well, it's Mick Foley. Come on. You can't have Mick Foley or a Mick Foley match and not have blood, gore, and guts. But I wanted to throw that in there, kind of an autobiography, just to kind of mix things up a little bit. I'm kind of getting a little, I don't want to say burned out on fantasy, but I know I had to take a break from Westerns there for a little bit and whatnot, so I figured, let's throw a couple books in there, genres that I've never really tried to read a whole lot of. And I figured, and I talked about this in my video yesterday that I uploaded, I'm going to try a sci-fi book. I am going to try to read The Old Man's War by John Scalzi. Like I said in the video yesterday, essentially what this is about is it is about a retiree who enlists in the galactic. Essentially, he signs up for Space Force to fight aliens and whatnot. But again, the twist is they're retired, so they're older. They have life experience. They have skills. They have trades. They have trade skills. They have all kinds of stuff. So I find that very interesting. So I want to try this and see. I've never been the biggest fan of sci-fi books. I'll be honest with you. I've read the Red Rising trilogy and all that, and I love those. I think those are, a little different than your typical sci-fi books. I'm not, again, like I said yesterday, I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. I enjoy Star Trek every now and then. I enjoy, the whatever you want to call it, the reboot movie. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Obviously, that has nothing to do with this, but again, I'm going to try stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit and getting into that. The next book should probably come as no surprise, especially since I just picked up most of the series. I'm going to continue with my Walt Longmire book reading, and I'm going to pick up Wait for Signs, which is a short story collection. I think this has 4 stories in it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. I mean, I'm just going to start this off. I mean, he's got a Louis L'Amour excerpt right there. I mean, you can't get no better than having Louis L'Amour excerpt right there. Yeah, it looks like it's got 1, 2. Looks like it's got... I've actually read a couple of these, so we will see. So this book should probably fly by, no problem at all. So those are the main 4 that I'm going to try and stick with on my TBR. Now, if I have time at the end of this month, which I'm hoping I do, I want to start a book a little early, and I am talking about Unmasked by Mr. Kane Hodder. I am a huge Kane Hodder fan. I love him in the Hatchet series. I love him. He's, like I've said before, he is my favorite Jason. He is the best Jason. I mean, don't get me wrong. The other Jasons are really good, CJ Graham, all that. But again, I am a huge Jason fan. If you can't tell, I mean, I absolutely have a whole shelf here dedicated to Jason and whatnot. I got to meet Mr. Tom Savini and all that. So I am a huge Jason fan, particularly Jason Goes to Manhattan is my favorite one. Although number 7 is definitely coming around for me. I'm starting to find myself liking that one more and more. But again, if I have time, I want to, read this because Texas Frightmare, which is the biggest convention in Texas, in my opinion, for horror movies, and my favorite one, the only one I've ever been to, he will be there in May. Unfortunately, I will not get to attend, but you know what? In light of that, I am going to try to read his autobiography. I read Robert Englund's a couple months ago, and I absolutely loved it. Mr. Hodder's book definitely is a little bigger than his, but again, I'm very much looking forward hopefully to getting into this and kind of reading that and just kind of seeing how life was for him growing up and whatnot. I know he got burned by a fire or something. I don't know a whole lot about him, so I'm very much looking forward to finding out more about Mr. Kane Hodder. But again, that is the TBR for the month of April. Again, I got some decent tomes in here, but you know what? I'm not scared. I'm gonna get through them. Let me know if y'all have read any of these books, if they were any good or not. Like I said, I'm very much looking forward to the month of April and what's gonna come ahead in reading these books and whatnot. But again, as always, I do appreciate y'all for stopping by and checking out my TBR. Let me know again, like I said, what y'all's TBR for the month of April. What are y'all reading? Like I said, as always, thank you.